Chief Executive of Apple, Tim Cook, has defended the company's tax practices at a US Senate inquiry, arguing it pays all its taxes and that its use of foreign subsidiaries doesn't affect its American tax bill. Senior Republican Senator John McCain has labelled the tech giant one of America's largest tax avoiders. It's alleged that Apple now pays less than 2% tax on its billion-dollar profits via a series of offshore companies, mainly in Ireland.
Congressional investigators said Apple used subsidiaries in Ireland as tax shelters. Cook testified before members of the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. He said Apple's overseas profits are not subject to U.S. taxes because they are earned in other countries. He said Apple's executives have no intention of repatriating the company's overseas earnings because of high U.S. tax rates. He called on senators to lower taxes. Committee members said in a report that Apple avoided paying taxes on more than $100 billion by keeping it out of the country. Apple is the latest in a series of companies targeted for its tax practices. Critics say these businesses channel profits to countries with lower tax rates to avoid higher rates in their home countries.
Senators accused Cook of shielding profits overseas to avoid paying taxes. Cook rejected those accusations and said that Apple pays one of the highest effective tax rates of any major corporation in the U.S. Senator John McCain argues that the tech giant is not playing fair.
Isn't it obvious that you are not bearing the same tax burden as if you were bearing in the United States, which then gives you some advantage over corporations and companies which are smaller, which are strictly located in the United States of America? I'm not saying that's wrongdoing, but I think you would agree that it gives you a significant advantage.
To the best of our knowledge, Apple has become the largest corporate income tax payer in America. Last year, our U.S. federal cash effective tax rate was 30.5%, and we paid nearly $6 billion in cash to the U.S. Treasury. That's more than $16 million each day, and we expect to pay even more this year. We don't move intellectual property offshore and use it to sell our products back to the United States to avoid taxes. We don't stash money on some Caribbean island. We don't move our money from our foreign subsidiaries to fund our U.S. business in order to skirt the repatriation tax. Our foreign subsidiaries hold 70% of our cash because of the very rapid growth of our international business. We use these earnings to fund our foreign operations, such as spending billions of dollars to acquire equipment to make Apple products, and to finance construction of Apple retail stores around the world.
Offshore tax avoidance by multinational companies has become a high-profile issue, but subcommittee staffers made it clear Apple is not breaking any laws and is cooperating fully with the inquiry. The company paid just 1.9% tax on its non-American profits of 28 billion euros. Apple has issued a statement saying it does not use what it calls tax gimmicks, and using foreign subsidiaries does not reduce its American tax bill.
A long way from California HQ, the controversy comes from Apple's Irish units. According to U.S. senators, Apple's Irish unit, Apple Operations International, or AOI, has no employees and no offices. Yet Apple reported sales of $30 billion over the past 3 years, and lawmakers say the company hasn't filed a tax return on that. In its defense, Apple says the business there is just a holding company, not a profit center.
This is a global problem. How do you actually go about taxing in the digital economy, where intellectual property exists in many parts of the world?
The genius of Apple's innovation is undisputed.
This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent.
It's their financial operations that may now have evolved a step too far.
President Barack Obama has offered to cut U.S. corporate rates as part of an overall streamlining of the U.S. tax code. Under the present system, nearly $2 trillion in U.S. profits are estimated to be parked in other countries. Meanwhile, the UK, Australia, and France are complaining that too many companies are exploiting the global patchwork of tax systems to legally sidestep their fair share of payments.
So, tax is making headlines day in, day out at the moment, and according to a survey of companies by Grant Thornton, the vast majority of business leaders are now bemused by all this hoo-ha over entirely legal tax practices that have been going on for years. In fact, they would welcome more guidance from authorities on tax planning, even if it resulted in them paying more.